I want to start with this Donald Trump Tulsa rally fallout, I guess you could call it. So, as you know, the entire administration, including Donald Trump, bragging about how 1 million people signed up to go to this Trump rally in Tulsa, and this amongst the coronavirus outbreak that took place, or that is taking place, the uptick. And a lot of people thought it'd be very dangerous to be indoors to do this thing. Well, last week, Donald Trump claimed that there was this tremendous demand for tickets at his rally. Now, if you forgot, have a listen to Donald Trump, what he said last week in his own words.
And we're going to be in Oklahoma, and it's a crowd like I guess nobody's seen before. We have tremendous requests for tickets like I think probably has never happened politically before.
I got to tell you something. There have been more people at Wranglers games back in the day at the Orleans Arena. This was a joke. There was just a little over 6,000 people there. It was a horrible turnout. All reports suggest that Donald Trump was upset and he was angry. There was even reports that came out that Ivanka Trump, his daughter, and Jared Kushner were quote-unquote pissed at the actual turnout. So Fox and Friends Steve Doocy, I'd like to call him Steve Douchey. Let's just call him Steve Douchey just for, giggles.
Yeah, that sounds appropriate.
Yeah, very appropriate.
Absolutely, of course.
Fox and Friends Steve Douchey challenging Kayleigh, the press secretary, JD, that you think is doing a wonderful job.
Exceptional, not wonderful, exceptional.
Even though every 3.5 seconds she has to look at her notes. Anyway, Douchey.
You're staring at a computer as we speak, Brian.
Yeah, but, I'm not in front talking about the President of the United States. I'm not in front holding a press conference. I'm doing a radio show. Those are two completely different things. So Fox and Friends Steve Douchey challenged Kayleigh when she said Trump was not upset about the low turnout in Tulsa, which is completely ridiculous and another lie. Again, this is Fox and Friends' very own Steve Douchey talking about this. Have a listen.
How angry was the president that there was just a sea of blue empty chairs?
The president was not angry at all. The president was quite energized. I was with him after the rally. It was a huge success. His speech got rave reviews. He was in good spirits on Marine One. And what the president routinely does is draw extraordinary turnout, as we saw, for instance, in the event with Prime Minister Modi. 50,000 people turned out. He was in a great mood. It was a great night, and there was a lot to celebrate.
Kayleigh, you're saying he was not furious because we've known Donald Trump. He was on this show every Monday for years. That guy who used to be on our show would have been furious that something went haywire.
In my interactions with the president after the rally on Marine One with him, I checked in with him on Air Force One, and he was in very good spirits. Spoke with him again about the rally yesterday, and it got rave reviews.
Yeah, I'm sure he was in wonderful spirits. So
a lot of people are pouncing on the fact that he was walking back to the White House. His tie was loose and his hat was crumpled in his hand, and his head was hung low.
Listen,
I had read also, Brian and JD, that Trump actually threatened to not go out on stage when he peeked out the curtain and saw the low turnout. But
that would not shock me one bit. Look, the bottom line is this. They were bragging about the turnout for weeks before. They were saying that 1 million people signed up to go to this rally. And then we hear all the excuses, right? The excuses from the right, the excuses that are saying, oh, no, it was the protesters that blocked. They must have blocked people from getting in the arena. That was a complete lie. Matt Schlapp, or as I like to call him, Matt Schlong, his wife was on Fox News. Wallace pressed her, and she said, yeah, people were blocking the protesters from getting in. And then Wallace said, ma'am, that's just not true. It didn't happen, which it didn't. It's a complete lie. People are saying, well, the CNN coverage, it must have been the CNN coverage. Yeah, because that's what Trump supporters do. They listen to everything that CNN has to say. It's just completely ridiculous. It was a bad turnout, simple as that. So at the Tulsa rally, Donald Trump said that he ordered his people to slow down corona testing. And then the White House later said that he was joking. Have a listen to this.
Testing is a double-edged sword. We've tested now 25 million people. It's probably 20 million people more than anybody else. Germany's done a lot. South Korea's done a lot. They called me. They said, the job you're doing, here's the bad part. When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people. You're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Yeah, that's very appropriate. Let's keep in mind, folks, that over 120,000 people have died from this virus, and testing is not a double-edged sword. The more testing you do, the more data you have, and it's, again, your more information you have. Testing is not a double-edged sword. Now, maybe to Donald Trump it is. Maybe to Donald Trump and his administration, because that's the only way he really sees things. He doesn't have empathy for others. He just sees things through his own eyes. So to him, testing is a double-edged sword as far as re-election efforts in November. But make no mistake about it, folks. The more testing we have, it's not a double-edged sword. That is absurd. And then in an interview with Scripps Media, asked if he told his staff to slow down testing, he says testing hurts us. Have a listen to this as he dodges the question.
If it did slow down, frankly, I think we're way ahead of ourselves, if you want to know the truth. We've done too good a job, because every time we go out with 25 million tests, you're going to find more people. So then they say, we have more cases in the United States. The reason we have more cases, because we do more testing than any other country by far, by probably 20 million people. So when we have more cases, you look at some of these countries, they don't even report. You think China's reporting their numbers? You think that other countries, I won't mention names, are reporting their numbers? We are so far advanced in testing, and in some ways that hurts us.
Okay, so first of all, he didn't answer the question. He was asked, did you tell your people to slow down testing? Now, Trump and some of in his administration were asked if that was true, and they all said it was tongue-in-cheek. Navarro said it was tongue-in-cheek. They said he was joking. Well, this morning the president was asked again about that statement, and his response was, I don't kid. He was asked, were you kidding about that? I don't kid. So that would only lead someone to believe that he asked people to slow down testing, which is absurd. And even if he was joking, which the president said this morning he wasn't kidding around when he said that, which would lead me to believe that it's true, even if he was joking, is this a time to joke around about testing? Again, do I have to keep repeating myself over and over again? Over 120,000 people have died from this virus, have to bury their loved ones. Is this a time to joke around about the coronavirus? But, Kayleigh and many others are saying it was just tongue-in-cheek. He was just joking around. And to me, this is the part of the speech over the weekend that was perhaps most troublesome. I mean, there were a lot of moments that were troublesome, but this one was, I remember back when this whole thing started and people were calling it the Wuhan virus and people calling it the Chinese virus. I didn't like it from the get-go, and then I said to myself, you know what? Let them call it that, because that is where the virus originated from. And listen, if you want to call it the Chinese virus, the Wuhan virus, it does not offend me, and it shouldn't offend anyone else. It's fine. But Donald Trump took it a step further once again in his speech over the weekend in Tulsa when he called this virus the Kung flu. Have a listen to this at his rally.
It's a disease, without question, has more names than any disease in history. I can name Kung flu.
Okay. Well, anyone who thinks that's okay for the president of the United States to use terminology like that, it's absurd. Oh, and by the way, Kellyanne Conway agrees with me. That's right. Because in March, there were members in Trump's administration that were accused of using that term, the Kung flu. Kellyanne Conway was asked about that on March 18th, and she admitted that it was wrong. Have a listen to this.
I'm not dealing in hypotheticals. Of course it's wrong. But you can't just make an accusation and not tell us who it is. Who is it? Come and tell us.
It's wrong.
Yamiche. And that's highly offensive, so you should tell us all who it is.
There you heard it from Kellyanne Conway. Highly offensive, and it's wrong. However, you haven't heard anything from Kellyanne Conway in the last couple days because her boss just used it. You heard it from her. And by the way, she's right. It's wrong, and it shouldn't be used. And Kayleigh, in the White House press conference that took place, dodged the question from CNN when asked about Trump's use of the term Kung flu. Have a listen to this.
The media and your network specifically have repeatedly used the term China virus and Wuhan virus and then gone on to deride the president as somehow using a term that they themselves have never used. So we can go through CNN's history. I'd be more than happy to go through CNN's history. On February 9th, you guys talked about the Wuhan coronavirus. On January 23rd, you guys talked about the Wuhan coronavirus. On January 22nd, the Wuhan virus. I can write it all out for you and detail it for you in an email.
Kayleigh,
yes,
got
Justin.
to admit that. It is not the same thing as calling it the Kung flu.
Just completely ridiculous. I could go through a list of other things that CNN said that they're calling it the Wuhan virus and the Chinese flu. Okay, a couple things I'll say to that. First of all, there is a huge distinction between calling this virus the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus and calling it the Kung flu virus. But if you noticed, she would not respond to that. That's number one. Number two, there is a fine line between the president of the United States speaking to millions of people and somebody who might be biased on CNN. The two do not compare. They do not own up to what the president says. Let's call it for what it is. What the president did over the weekend in calling it the Kung flu virus is wrong. It is offensive to some people. But then again, I guess we should get used to it because Donald Trump has done this for 3.5 years. He says offensive things on a regular basis. It wasn't the only controversial thing he said in Tulsa over the weekend. And we rest assured, folks, it will not be the last. But nobody should be okay with this. Listen, if you want to call it the Kung flu with your friends, I don't agree with it. But it's one thing if you do that at a bar. It's another thing if the president of the United States does it. It's just inappropriate. And I'm not shocked that some of his supporters in Tulsa were jumping up and down, putting their fist in the air and screaming and laughing and thought it was all great when the president of the United States referred to this virus as the Kung flu. So, JD, I will ask you, are you okay with the president of the United States calling this?
First of all, Brian, I'm not going to answer that question. I want to start at the beginning.
Not?
Because you didn't let me talk for 15 minutes, Brian. You just went on a 15-minute diatribe and didn't let me respond to anything that you just said.
Okay.
So first and foremost,
what do you wait?
No. Donald Trump should not have thrown an indoor rally in Tulsa. Period. I would have not attended that, personally, even though I'm a very avid Trump supporter. That being said, the 6,200, who cares about that? What matters is the 10 million that watched it on television, the 4 million that watched it on streaming networks. And I guarantee if those numbers were a lot less, then Donald Trump would be angry about it. I don't think he was angry at all about the turnout under those circumstances, Brian. Fox had their biggest Saturday night in history on Saturday. They had 8 million viewers that watched this rally. And I thought he did a very good job myself. Also, as far as the Kung flu, do I prefer it? No. But am I really angry about it? No. The virus originated in China. China gave us misinformation. Our doctor, Anthony Fauci, the chief virologist, gave us misinformation. We were set behind a significant amount because of the misinformation that we had. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, China is responsible for this virus and for a lot of these deaths. And as far as 120,000 deaths go, Brian, you got to keep in mind about 50,000 of those took place in nursing homes. And if those nursing homes in those 5 states, California, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, were not forced, in Michigan, were not forced to take in patients, that number of deaths would be significantly lower than it was. It would be very close to the flu, to be completely honest with you, over that time period. It would be a bad flu season. But yeah, I don't have a huge problem with Donald Trump saying Kung flu. Doesn't bother me that much. But I wanted to talk about the testing here. Brian, we've done 29 million tests right now. Russia's done 17. We've done 12 million tests.
What does that have to do with what I just talked about?
Everything. You just mentioned all of it.
I'm talking about...
You went through 3 things, and you didn't give me a chance to respond to any of it, Brian. You just kept going and going.
Right,
and then you asked me about the third thing. So I answered your third thing, which to me, whatever, fine, doesn't make a difference. But I wanted to talk about the fact that the turnout was major on via television and streaming.
We're not talking about television. We're talking about how many people showed up in person.
And I'm saying that Donald Trump isn't angry because he did so well via television and streaming networks. Okay. And you're assuming that because he only had 6,000 people there that he would be angry. Brian,
I'm not assuming anything.
He had
going by sources.
He had no business.
I'm not assuming
anything. He had no business. Again, I am a very avid Trump supporter. Had that been outdoors and I was in Tulsa, I would have attended. But he had no business whatsoever throwing an indoor rally at the tail end of what is considered a worldwide pandemic. It was a bad decision as far as I'm concerned, and I wouldn't have attended, but it was widely watched. And with the testing, we have done a lot of testing. And right now, the positive testing rate in the United States is down significantly from what it was. A month ago, it was about 12 or 14%. Now it's down to 8.8%, Brian. So, yeah, the more testing that takes place, the more cases are going to show up, and that's just the way it works out. But also, there was a study that was released by Stanford yesterday, and if you're under 70 years old, the chance of you dying from the coronavirus is 0.04%. That's 2.5 times less than the flu. And the actual rate, the median mortality rate for this virus as of right now, based on 24 different sources, is 0.26%, Brian. So, yes, we have done a significant more amount of testing than anybody else, almost 60% more than Russia has, which is the closest competitor in that regard. And if you do more testing, you're going to find more cases. And our positive testing rate, which is all that matters when it comes to testing, has dropped significantly the last 2 months.
Okay, so I'll make a deal with you tomorrow, so you're not so angry at me because you said.
Oh, I'm not angry at all.
Okay, well,
no, I'm not angry.
I'll tell you what we'll do tomorrow. And this,
I would like to be able to respond to each thing as you say it, as opposed to you going through it for 15 minutes and then asking me one question and then having me respond to that.
Well, now you know what it feels like to be me when you ask a question and then you go on a 5-minute diatribe and I don't even remember the question that you asked.
Okay, so now you're spinning it on me.
No, I'm not at all.
I mean, at least this is on the board.
I'll make a deal
so
with
I can
you.
look at it.
I'll make a deal with you. You can go through all the cuts tomorrow. I'll let you give background on it. I'll let you introduce them all. And you can
No, see, I didn't say that. I just said if you're gonna go through a cut, get my response first, or ask me my thoughts on the collective of the cuts instead of just the last cut that you did.
It's an easy fix
because you not bringing up how massive the television numbers were is a problem, Brian.
So first of all,
that is an issue.
It's an easy fix.
You can talk about the 6,200, and I'm sure Trump wasn't ecstatic about it, but I don't think he was really angry about it.
Now it's my turn. Okay, now it's my turn. What you're saying has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about, and I will explain why. For a week before this event, weeks before this event, they were bragging not about the ratings they would get, if I could finish, not about the ratings they were going to get on television, not about how many people were going to be viewing it on television. They were bragging about how many people were going to be at the event.
And do you know why that is?
Hold on, if I could just finish. That is what they were doing. They were bragging about the attendance. They got 6,000 people showing up to the rally. They were talking about, for weeks, people are camped out in front of this box center. And they got 6,000 people. Let me tell you something. I've been to the Orleans Arena. I guarantee you there were more people at Wranglers games for an AHL hockey game than they were there. Now, listen.
And do you know why that is, Brian?
Well, I'm sure you'll make up a White House excuse or a right-wing excuse.
It's not a White House, right? It's because it was an indoor event at the tail end of a worldwide pandemic. It was a bad decision in the first place. And
so why did they do it then?
As far as the 1.1 million tickets,
it was a bad decision.
Yeah, that's what I said. I told Doug Basham the exact same thing last week on Friday. I said, Doug, I would prefer if this was outdoors. I would not have done it indoors, and I wouldn't have attended if it was indoors because it makes zero sense.
They still did predict that it would be a full house, though. They did.
Well, that was based on the 1.1 million tickets that were sold, and if you saw, there was a woman, a 51-year-old woman who is an avid Bernie Sanders supporter, who started a TikTok campaign because all you had to do was register for these tickets online, and anyone could register. And there were a bunch of teenagers all over the world and K-pop fans in South Korea or in Korea that registered for all these different tickets, and that's why the numbers were so high. That's why they anticipated so many people would show up.
Gotcha.
Brian. And you have to mention those things if you know them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a lot. Here's what I know.
I also believe an outdoor rally that was supposed to happen after the indoor rally
with the overflow. Yeah,
with Pence
there was
and
no
Trump
overflow.
Actually was canceled.
They were telling people on social media, show up. We still got open seats right before this thing started. The bottom line here is this: maybe. Just maybe, Donald Trump doesn't have the support that some people would like to lead you to believe. Maybe, just maybe, people didn't decide to show up because they were smart enough to understand, we got a virus out there. Maybe something weird is going on when the President of the United States wants me to sign this piece of paper that says if I get the virus, I can't sue. Maybe just some people out there were even neutral that were planning on going to the event said, you know what? It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it to go to this Trump rally because I don't want to get sick and I don't want to get the coronavirus. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't a protester or protesters that were blocking people from getting in. Maybe, simply, people just didn't want to go.
Hey, Brian, there's no maybe about that. I just literally told you that I would not have gone.
That's you.
Yeah. And I'm one of the most avid Trumps. I do this. I'm saying if I was in Tulsa, if I lived in Tulsa, I would not have gone to this event because it was an indoor event with what's going on with the coronavirus.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break.
So there's no maybe about it. That's a fact.
Why don't we take some phone calls on this? I think this is an embarrassment for the president, him using the term Kung Flu, joking about less testing. It's an embarrassment. And the crowd size.